the Phalanx is one of the most legendary and effective military formations of the ancient world. It was primarily used by the ancient Greeks, and the soldiers who fought in the Phalanx were known as hoplites. Today's video will focus on them. Due to the fragmented political structure of ancient Greece, with many competing city-states, the number of conflicts constantly increased, but the scope of warfare was limited. Limited manpower prevented most Greek city-states from creating large armies that could operate for extended periods. As a result, their armies were mostly composed of non-professional soldiers. Most soldiers were farmers or laborers who returned to their professions after a military campaign. The hoplite, whose name derives from the word hoplon, meaning tool or weapon, was the most common type of heavily armed civilian infantryman in ancient Greece from the 7th to the 4th century BC. Most ordinary citizens of Greek city-states with sufficient means were expected to serve as hoplites if needed. Athens had a mandatory military service system for men aged 18 to 20, but during wartime all male citizens up to the age of 60 could be called into the armed forces. Other cities in ancient Greece followed similar policies, meaning hoplites were not professional soldiers and often lacked sufficient military training. Although some states maintained small elite professional units, one of the most famous was the Sacred Band of Thebes, a unit composed of 150 pairs of homosexual male lovers who swore to protect their partners until death. A significant exception to this approach to warfare and armies was Sparta, where all men over 20 were members of a standing professional army. Consequently, Spartan hoplites were renowned for their military prowess. Each hoplite had to procure his own equipment, meaning that only those who could afford such weapons and armor could fight as hoplites. Similar to the Roman Republican army, it was the middle classes that made up the bulk of the infantry. The equipment was not standardized, although trends in general designs undoubtedly existed over time and between city-states. Hoplites had personalized armor, and shields often bore family or clan emblems, though later these were replaced by symbolic monograms of city-states. Armor could be inherited within families due to its high cost. A hoplite army consisted of heavy infantrymen, whose armor, known as panoply, was sometimes made entirely of bronze for those who could afford it. Weighing nearly 32 kilograms, the full bronze armor was expensive, so linen armor, known as linothorax, was more common due to its cost-effectiveness and decent protection. Average farmers could not afford any armor, and usually only carried a shield, spear, and perhaps a helmet plus a secondary weapon. Wealthier hoplites from the upper class typically had bronze breastplates, either of the bell or muscled type, bronze greaves, and additional armor pieces. The design of the helmets used evolved over time, with the Corinthian helmet being the most successful and legendary design. The main weapons of the hoplite infantryman were a long spear made of ash wood, called a doru, and a short sword, called a xiphos. The spear measured 2.5 meters in length, with a bronze or iron blade and a four-sided butt spike. The sword was also iron, either straight or sometimes curved, and no longer than 60 centimeters. Many hoplites also carried a dagger as a last resort. A hoplite always carried a large circular shield called an aspis, approximately 80 centimeters in diameter and weighing up to 8 kilograms. It was made of wood or tough leather, covered with bronze, and was held by the left arm through a central strap and gripped using a handle attached to the shield's edge. Shields often featured specific designs, with the most famous being the inverted V shape of the Spartan hoplites. Mythical emblems, such as the Gorgon from Greek mythology, were also popular. Unlike hoplites, other contemporary infantry, such as the Persians, tended to wear relatively light armor and carried wicker shields, equipped with shorter spears, javelins, and bows. The best known were the peltasts, lightly armed soldiers who wore no armor and were equipped with a light shield, javelins, and a short sword. The Athenian general Iphicrates developed a new type of armor and weaponry for his mercenary army, including lightweight linen armor, smaller shields, and longer spears, while his peltasts were armed with larger shields, helmets, and longer spears, allowing them to better defend against hoplites. With this new type of army, Iphicrates defeated the Spartan army in 392 BCE. Before we continue, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment about what the next video should cover. Hoplites were organized into regiments or lochoi consisting of several hundred men, and they fought in lines 8 or more men deep. In the Phalanx Formation, each man's shield protected his neighbor to the left, causing the phalanx to often advance at a slight angle to the right, as men tried to stay behind their neighbor's shield. This often resulted in the left flank breaking formation first, making it the preferred target for a competent commander. The Greek phalanx advanced accompanied by rhythmic music from aulos players and a tremendous battle cry. Upon encountering the enemy, hoplites would initially thrust their spears overhand. This was followed by a series of shoving and close-quarters combat with swords. Hoplites played a crucial role in Greek warfare, contributing to the victories of Greek armies over Persia in the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE and the Battle of Plataea in 479 BCE during the Greco-Persian Wars. The phalanx's weaknesses included attacks from the flanks, the rear by light cavalry, or on uneven terrain. These weaknesses were exploited by more nimble commanders, yet the formation, albeit with lighter armed infantry, remained in use through Hellenistic and early Roman times. Perhaps the most famous battle involving hoplites is the Battle of Thermopylae, which you can learn about in this video. Thank you to all channel members, and may the gods be with you.